In NFL Week 9, when a two-win team travels to play a one-win team, you thinking expectations aren't very high. Oh, I'm not one of them. I'm expecting a lot from this game. We'll talk about it. And I will say this part of this conversation is going to be God help that team if they end up losing. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. What am I expecting to see on Sunday? First and foremost, um, I want to see some semblance of a basic, fundamental style of football played on that field. Put it simply, I want to see him run, catch, tackle, block, throw, kick in the simplest form of the game. I want to see if they're able to do it because you know what? They haven't been able to do it for basically a month and a half. And this going back to, you know, for those of you out here that hate this comment, DA, we just got to get better. We got to get better. Look, you've been a get right team for basically 2 straight weeks, 4 out of the last 6, more or less. Um, well, here's your only chance at a get right team because you already played them once and beat them. You want any ability to recapture anything you were doing at the beginning of the season. And honestly, I don't know if you can. I don't think you can, but to have a shot, you got to get right against Carolina. Early, often, the whole game, 4 solid quarters. Stop doing the dumb stuff. Start doing the stuff you're supposed to do. And some of these guys are just going to have to prove that they belong in an NFL field because right now, out of our general 53, it seems like only a handful of them have actually been doing that over the course of the season. And I want to see whoever's going to be on the field. Um, I want to see him play a clean football game. The dumb mental errors, the dumb penalties, all the stuff, quote unquote, that we can control, that we keep talking about. We just got to get better at it, get better at it. I want to see results. I'll be honest with you. A win without seeing a clean game to me is just as damning as a loss, and the head coach should be fired anyway. Because if you can't play a clean, fundamental, basic, sound football game against which should be the worst team in the league, but if you don't do that stuff, they're going to have a shot at beating you, and you will become the worst team in the league, except for maybe outside the Titans. I think they're still in the running, but you definitely bottom 5. They still want to. They're not using the P word. We're not hearing playoffs, but they're in kind of implying, and I think what they're hoping is they can get on a little run here over these next few weeks, and you know, clip off 3 and 4 in a row, and then it's going to come back. And I think that's part of the gaslighting and the sham that they do at this point in the season. I don't know if Saints fans there's many or any left that's going to fall for that now at this point, and that's how they kind of pull the wool over our eyes. So if you can't go against a team like this and actually be a better football team, score points, don't allow them to score points, and again, all the stupid brainless plays we make and all the stupid brainless penalties we commit. Now, say this much: if you continue to do that, then you won't have the ability to try to gaslight us on a 3 or 4 game winning streak because it just ain't going to happen. More importantly, I want to see some young football players on the field playing their positions and not just getting called up or getting thrown out there to take 5 or 6 special team snaps. I mean, to me, that is the biggest disservice if you're going to keep rolling veterans out there. And at this point, you need to, if you're not understanding that the rebuild's right around the corner, and it's really should be starting now, but I don't think they're going to do it. But it should definitely come to fruition in the beginning of 2025. That some of these veterans should not be here next year, and you should start figuring out who they are. Because one of the things I'd like to see is if you already have the young replacement on the roster. You don't have to go find anybody. What available draft picks you have, you need to go find players that can replace the other guys we need to get rid of on the roster. And you have to do it with these young guys to shave the dead money off the cap. I don't want to see the reason why I pulled up the injury report. Well, two of our top three corners ain't playing. Kool-Aid and Marshawn are out. Kind of right now as it stands, if you want to call Ugo Amadi a corner, you have to with him and Taylor. He plays corner. He plays safety. He's kind of a hybrid guy in between. But right now, that should be like you don't even have a slot corner that you can put in there. Now Rico Payton is likely to play, so you might have three. But we don't know for sure. That questionable. We've seen that during the course of the year. Questionable on Friday becomes doubtful on Saturday, becomes out Sunday morning. So I'm not quite counting on him yet till he gets through Saturday without having his designation lowered. So for example, right now you have a chance because he's sitting on the practice squad as one of the two call-ups this week. Let's bring up Shamar Jean-Charles and not let him run down and cover a couple of punts and cover a kick, but actually get him on the field. What does he have? It's not like he's going to be lining up against Deebo Samuels or Jamar Chase this week. He's going to be lining up more than likely because Deontay Johnson got traded because Carolina's clearly sellers. And Thielen looks like he's doubtful and still isn't back from his injury. Mingo, a guy named Coker, who's an undrafted free agent, looks like he's going to move up. And one of the reasons why they felt like they wanted to trade Deontay Johnson, literally to give this kid a chance to go along with their rookie receiver that they drafted a lot higher than undrafted, Leggett, who is also in the injury report. He may not play, so you may not even be dealing with him either. It's an opportunity to see what Jean Charles can do. I didn't pull up their injury report. I didn't necessarily save it because I don't really care. But I know that there's not a lot of overly talented guys on that Panthers defense that where you are offense or defense where you would say, no, we don't want to play any of the young guys. We don't want them out there. We don't want to expose them to this. No, this is the game to do it. Let's see look, I would love, as another example, if they decide Isaiah Foskey is going to be a healthy scratch, let's pull up Nick Lalos. And again, not play 4 or 5 special team snaps. Actually give him some play time in the rotation on the edge. Just see what the hell he can do. See if he can get in the backfield and get anywhere near quarterback. See if he can tackle or come off a block and tackle and running back in the running game. Because if he could do that once, that'd be one more time than we've seen people like Foskey or Peyton Turner do it this year. And that would excite me greatly. But I want to start laying the groundwork right here and not keep the Saints to not keep fooling themselves and trying to gaslight the fans and that this team in this current build in this year is going anywhere, much less potentially turning into something over the next few seasons like we've been hoping. But reality is it ain't going to happen. I want to see what these young guys can do. I want to see if any of them can possibly fit, like I just mentioned, starting in 2025 in your plans where probably won't ever be all pros, may not even see a big second contract in their whole time in the NFL. They can just help you tread water enough till you fix the problems on the roster and fix the problems on the payroll and get you through a season where, okay, now we're reset. Now we're at the point where we're going to start adding real free agents because we can afford it. And it's going to help us build the scheme, both sides of the ball, and get better players and draft better and all the stuff we know they need to do. Talked about it a lot yesterday for a long time. But I want to see what you have. That's your starting point right now. That's about the best you can do. I don't think we can really be sellers. There's, like I said, if they want to dig deep, there's a couple guys that they can move, and if it's worth getting something for them, then yeah. Just don't know if there's anything really there. So if you really can't sell, then the next best thing you got to do is figure out you have a huge stretch first, second, and some third year players that just whether you haven't developed them or whatever the hell's going on, you haven't gotten them on the field a whole lot. Well, they need to get on the field and they need to show, do they belong on an NFL team? Because if they do, then you can definitely figure out a way that you can use them in your future plans, at least for 2025. You know what a loss means? A loss means DA. Literally, this time around, should be fired on the tarmac. Because he's already in extremely rarefied air with previously disgraced, disgruntled, and completely fired Saints head coaches with the 6 losses in a season, or a 6 game losing streak in a season, I should say. Um, I enjoyed some rarefied air because I believe it was Ditka that had 7 in a row. You know, so we know what his fate already should be. We talked about that a couple of days ago. But if you ever needed to put the proverbial nail in the coffin, losing 7 straight and the 7th loss being to Carolina would pretty much do it. But I think the bigger fallout here, lost Carolina. Look, for the most part, this organization, as it's currently built, has enjoyed the fruits of a very passionate fan base. Um, very, very passionate area of the country when you're talking about New Orleans and Southeast Louisiana, state as a whole, really. You've been a very good franchise for 2 decades after being except for brief stints, a very bad one throughout your whole existence before that. So in its current form, I don't think there's a lot of people in the organization who has witnessed how that passion can be turned against them when we feel betrayed. And everybody kind of jokingly looks back on the 1-15 and some of the bad head coaches, players, bad drafts, all that stuff. We kind of do it jokingly now, but if you were there and remember it, we can be hard, as hard as some of the other harder fan bases out there. We can be forgiving, but that's the second part of this. I think the real problem is nobody in that organization right now wants to be forgiving because they, honest to God, think they're doing the right thing. And we just don't know any better. That we just need to shut up, pay our money, and cheer on in the game, and that's just not going to happen. And if they don't realize that, taking a loss in Charlotte on Sunday is going to open some eyes up that I don't think they truly understand what could be coming, and it's all deserved, every single bit of it. And there's no way, um, Mr. Benson was still running the show. There's no way he would have settled for it. I firmly, truly believe that. So I'm still unsure why anybody else really is, or they appear to be. Um, Honestly, from what I saw, um, the last couple of talking to the medias after practice, I think he understands. I think he's feeling the heat, but in a way that doesn't make him scared for his job. It to me, my personal opinion, it's I'm safe. He's like the attitude. Yeah, I'm safe pretty much as long as Mickey's here, I think. But this is going to get real uncomfortable dealing with media and any fans or anything like that throughout this process. And the reason why I say that is because it still sounded like he still doesn't know how to avoid getting off this list and joining the one that Ditka's on, and possibly even worse beyond that. Saints fans are not gonna we're not gonna settle for this. And the other thing I would say that I think one of the biggest changes, and this is just as I was thinking about this morning, trying to go through this video of what I wanted to say when it came to this regard, kind of dawned on me, at least for me, and I think at least part of the fan base would agree with me on this. I don't know how much, especially those of us that remember when Mr. Benson bought the team and took it over from John Meacham, and wow, That was a disaster. His whole tenure as owner. But it seemed like Mr. Benson was one of us. He was the guy. And look, I was basically high school and college at the time when he's doing the Benson Booger on the sideline after we won a game. You know, basically the same thing we were doing on weekends. It's like, man, hey, look at this guy. He's one of us, man. He could party with us. He can party with this city because this city loves to party. It's he's going to find a reason to let us do that. He came close a couple of times with some really good season, and then nailed it in 2009. And boy, it was fantastic. The current, I feel like, is disconnected. The people running the team from this fan base, and as this has progressed, during this 6-game disaster, I feel more and more people calling the shots. And a lot of the aspect of the organization is just continuously moving away from the fan base. It's going to come back to bite them on the ass if I'm right on this. And it'll show up immediately after a loss if this team goes to Charlotte and gets their ass kicked, which this isn't a prediction show because I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. I wouldn't touch it on the money line. I wouldn't touch it on the over-under. I wouldn't touch it on the spread. I have no idea what's going to go on. That's how screwed up our team is right now. So it's a little scary what's about ready to happen. One of the reasons why I want to see a clean game. I don't want to go down the darker path of 7 and a loss or 7 losses in a row. Sorry. Would start leading us down and how this season would finally end up. Yeah, we'll have a better draft pick. But if the chuckleheads running the show in the front office can't figure out what to do with it, the hell good is it doing us? That's where I'm feeling right now. So this is, saying the last couple of games were must wins, must win, must win. This is beyond a must win. I don't know if you have a description for what's more must win than an actual must win. And we've been blowing those lately. We're getting pretty good at it. I really feel like if there's a team in the NFL right now that can roll on Charlotte in a Sunday in November and get their ass kicked right now, it's our New Orleans Saints. So give me a thumbs up if you notice what I was doing there. I was basically looking beyond the results like a good organization does there, Mickey. Hope you're watching. Because basically, wrap this up in the conclusion is if you notice, I'm not talking about the actual win-loss in the context of what it does for us. It's more like, what do we look like trying to do whatever it is we're trying to do on Sunday? And how any of that can carry over. Because that's the point this team is at. What is fixable? We need to find out. What is not fixable? We need to find out. We need to keep the fixable, get rid of the unfixable. You all know my feelings on the guy running the front office and the guy running the team on the field or in the unfixable category. So 7th loss could very well speed that up. But to be perfectly honest with you, and this is what I mean by looking beyond the results, we play as crappy as we have the last 6 weeks, but just by virtue of the fact we roll into a 1-6, I believe, team, 1-7, who cares? That we've already beaten the crap out of once this season. So we roll in there and play like we played the last few weeks and still win a ball game. To me, that's no different than Denver coming in on a Thursday night and barrel rolling you. And it's truly looking beyond the results, Mickey. That's the kind of stuff you're talking about. The flip side of that, to be perfectly fair, if you go in and play a game where you come out with another 40-something to 6 win, whatever it was that we did in week 1, I promise you I'm not giving you overly excited props on that. I'm just going to say, well, finally, since the first time in the first 2 weeks of the season, you went out and did what you were supposed to do. Why couldn't you do it the last few weeks? And again, if you want to look beyond the results, don't care about win or losses. But I'm talking about walking in, playing a clean game, playing a sound, fundamental, basic football game. You run, block, throw, tackle, kick. That's where we're at right now. Can we do those things better than your normal Pop Warner football team? Because the last few weeks, I figured, no, that's what we look like. A bunch of 10-year-olds running around out there trying to figure out how to play the game of football. And I do not want to see that on the field, win, lose, or draw on Sunday. I don't want to see it the rest of the season. And no matter what the outcome is, I don't think there's any scenario coming up anytime soon where I'm going to break off my stance already laid out this week that both Mickey and DA need to go, and they need to go as soon as possible. So, actually recording this on Friday, gonna probably a little editing and other stuff. It'll be out Saturday morning. Um, if you want a prediction, we should win. There you go. Um, and then Sunday night will be the post game. And so I'll have that posted up tomorrow at some point during the day with the post on it, so you'll get the notification. Be 9:30 Sunday night Central Time, like usual. So definitely see you then. Hopefully, some kind of way we'll have something good to talk about after that game. But I wouldn't bet a penny on it actually happening. We'll see how it turns out. So if you're new here, please hit the like, share, subscribe, and notification so we can all be there on Sunday night to figure out whatever the hell's going to go on in Charlotte on Sunday. Do we have any good, viable takeaways for the future of this franchise coming out of it? So I'll see you then. I'm Tim. Peace out. Who dat?